So, after Dr. Latoshik just showed us how to confront our fears virtually, I'd like to show you how I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. So let's start. The American rapper Kanye West taught me a really big lesson. It's the fact that you can do anything and nobody can tell you what you're supposed to do next, except that idea is coming from you. It only matters who you think you are. You can be a rapper in his case and write a book on philosophy, or you can be a rapper and run for president. No freaking deal. It all makes sense in his head. Almost 5 years ago, I read the most underrated book of all time, in my opinion. It's from my favorite author, Julian Smith, and it's called Is the Flinch. The cool thing about it is it's short and it's for free. You can just download it as an ebook online. And this talk is going to be about how you can conquer the so-called flinch and, just strengthen your fear-defying muscle every once in a while when you need to make a tough decision. So, what is the flinch exactly? Let me define it for you. It's when you shrink back from something that is difficult, dangerous, or unpleasant, or it means to shrink under pain and wince. Today I want to tell you 3 stories on how I conquered the flinch and how I made a tough decision along the way. Did you know that the number 1 fear of people is not bugs, it's not heights, it's not even sickness, it's public speaking? I experience it right now. In case you didn't notice, I have stage fright. You might see me blushing up like a red tomato. You might hear me breathe in unnatural ways, having the fear of forgetting my text. But you know what? I was asked to give this talk, so damn it, I'm gonna see this through. It will never get easier if you don't do something about the thing that you're most afraid of. So that's what I'm doing right now. I started slowly. Little by little, I started volunteering for things daily. It's just little small things. Whenever somebody was asking for a volunteer, for example, I promised myself that my hand would go up first thing. And so I did, countless times. Whenever somebody was looking for for a volunteer, I'd be like, okay, hey, me. Whenever on Facebook somebody was like, okay, I need someone to do this, I was like, okay, me. No problem. Because I knew that the more often I would be put in this awkward position, the less anxious I would get. Well, that was the hope. I started to find ways to make the unbearable at least a little bit more bearable. So what I did is I was super afraid to show people that I blush, and I started wearing turtlenecks. And everybody completely got it wrong, since I was so interested in computers and tech. They thought I wanted to copy Steve Jobs. And I was like, every time I went to an interview, I had my turtleneck on. And I was like, okay, play this role, whatever, wear jeans. And then they were like, oh, she's looking like Steve Jobs. I was like, I'm gonna leave you in that belief. I'm not gonna let you know what the real reason is. Well, now you know. In fact, you'd never see me on a big stage without a turtleneck on, except for now. So as I said, I applied to be a speaker at dozens of conferences. I started going all in, not just volunteering, but actually applying to be on stage and to talk about something that I'm passionate about. It all started with programming events. I started to talk about the code that I had written, and then slowly I started to talk about more personal stuff. It was all worth it in the end. I was able to get more than $15,000 worth of scholarships, go to amazing places and amazing cities, for example, Dublin, Madrid, even Beijing and Silicon Valley. I was able to pitch my ideas in front of 50 investors and even get a job offer afterwards. That was a crazy time. So next time somebody asks for a volunteer, and if you're kind of afraid of the same thing that I am, you know what to do. Let's talk about my second biggest fear. Some of you might agree that they hate it just as much. So who of you hates math or is not really good at it or did not enjoy it in school at all? Well, yeah, quite a lot of people. So I'm glad I'm not alone. I actually knew that I'm not alone. So I didn't just struggle with math. Math gave me serious stress. It all started when I was very young. I used to cry. I even used to hide under the table one night before the exam and be like, I can't do this. I'm way too afraid of everything. And I just started to, think of ways of getting out of that situation. Soon I'd be known for going to the doctor just one night before, even though I was prepared just because I didn't want to write the exam the first time around. But I was facing a challenge. I really liked computers and I really liked tech. And my teacher was like, well, if you're not good at math, I wouldn't study anything math related. And I was like, but I really want to. And in that moment, it made sense for me to not let that weakness that I had stand in the way of just pursuing what I wanted. So in that moment, I was like, okay, this is it, this is the moment. I need to conquer my fear and I need to enroll in computer science. So I did. I was studying day and night and I felt good. I felt like I was studying something that was really helping me getting further in what I wanted to know. But after studying computer science for more than 2 years, I, in fact, went on the biggest journey of my life. I started coding for real, not just for homework. I had an amazing time with friends at nerdy tech conferences where I was speaking at. I was having really the fun of my life. The path to finding yourself will never be linear, and that is okay. I'm totally fine that I'm not the best coder or anything. It's really okay for me. It was because I conquered my fear that I got to go do amazing other things and grow in many other ways, more than I imagined. I got the opportunity to develop an amazing stock market game with friends that now over 10,000 people play. Who would have known? It was just a fun idea we had when I was, I don't know, probably 16 or something. And I'd say that computer science really shaped me as a person and really changed who I am now. So now, whenever they say Mrs. Code in an interview, know that I feel proud. Not because of that title doesn't say much, but because of the fact that I remember the time that I conquered that fear and went down that path. So let's talk about my third fear, my last fear. It's when I realized that the world of programming wasn't where I wanted to stay forever. I always had side hustles that were in completely different areas of interest. So when I decided to drop out of computer science, that night I laid awake all night, contemplating what other careers I could choose. As I was thinking about these things, my voices inside my head grew louder. They were telling me, you should stay in computer science. They were starting to doubt my decision. And my friends and family, they were voicing the fears just as loud. And I was like thinking to myself, man, is this the right way to go? Am I taking the easy road out of this? Am I not capable of more than just, programming? So my biggest fear in that moment was not the fact that I needed to change careers or anything. It was the fact that I felt completely hopeless. I felt like I can't finish anything in my life. And it was visible in the most ridiculous settings in my daily life. For example, when I was watching a Netflix series and I didn't quite finish the whole episode or the season, I used to think to myself, man, that's it. You're a quitter, that's why you're not finishing anything. Or when I couldn't finish a meal at McDonald's or something, I was like, definitely you're a quitter. Like, what are you thinking? So at the end of the day, I would feel devastated for the most ridiculous reasons. But yeah, as you've probably guessed it, that's not where the story ends. Lucky for me. But about 2 years ago, I read a quote that changed my life forever, I'd say. It says, "Be the change you want to see in the world." So, as cheesy as it sounds, it got me thinking, what kind of change do I want to see in the world? What is my next adventure? What is my next challenge? What can I contribute? And as I was thinking about these questions, usually I would do that in a library. I would go there almost every day after school, and I would just be, either reading about how I can solve them, or I would just think about ways of going on with my career. The library was my search engine for everything. So I was the happiest kid ever between those amazing books, and I would read so much about everything that interests me. But in my head, one particular situation stuck. And it was the moment that I realized, man, there is a book that I can't find, and that is because it hasn't been written yet. So an idea popped into my head that moment, and I thought to myself, maybe, what if I could write that very book I was looking for 2 years ago? Of course, the usual voices returned. You're a quitter, you can't do anything, you can't stick with something for more than 2 years. But alas, I decided to conquer that fear. And piece by piece, the book wrote itself. For those of you who want to write a book or have written one already, you may know that the writing part is not the most difficult part. It's actually starting. Just getting pen and paper and having a deep conversation with yourself. It's about breaking the bad habits or turning off the TV and really saying like, okay, now I'm gonna work on my book. That was the most difficult part. But I'm glad I did it. It's over. The book is written, and it's soon to be published by one of the most amazing economy publishers I could have asked for. So that's a big step for me, and the fact that I just said that on a TEDx stage is sheer unbelievable. I hope these 3 stories that I shared with you today have inspired you that nothing is impossible, and that the path to success, or whatever you want to call it, is not linear and that is okay. If you feel like you're going in the right direction at that very moment, then that's actually all you need to know. You get lost, you're confused, and you'll probably doubt yourself more often than not. But remember, as the rapper Kanye West tells his fans, be your own biggest fan. Cut the negative self-talk and really just try to listen to yourself and get started on what you really want to do. So maybe you've realized I'm a big fan of hands-on advice. I don't want to just end this talk right here, but I would rather give you a little assignment from one of my favorite books, The Flinch, that I mentioned earlier. For that, I'm gonna need you to close your eyes for a couple seconds and just imagine something that you're really afraid to do. If it's public speaking, or writing that exam, or talking to a colleague in a normal setting, presenting your ideas, whatever it is. Really picture that moment. Now open your eyes. I'm going to give you an assignment. When you get home, walk up to your shower and turn on the cold water. Then wait a second. Then test it to make sure it's as cold as possible. Do you see what's coming? If you do, you should tense up immediately. You should feel it in your chest. You might even laugh to release the tension. And you haven't even stepped inside of that shower. You're anxious of something that hasn't happened and won't kill you. Anxious of something that barely hurts at all. Okay. Now do it. Now is the time to step into that cold shower. And as the cold water hits you, you might shout or squirm or do a little dance like me and just be like, okay, this is it. But the discomfort, I'm telling you, lasts only a second. You quickly get used to the water. In fact, you will put yourself in the path of the shower to speed up that adjustment process. Remember your reaction. You can use this method for almost any fear you have. Thank you.